you. There's a couple. All right, looks like a full house. Everybody cool and calm? How's the cameraman doing? You all right? All right. The hippie who swallowed the earth. Welcome to the Earth People Comedy Club. This is the Earth People Comedy Crew's 47th show. And tonight we are so lucky to have two of the Bay Area's most finest performers, Mark Lemaire, virtuoso guitarist and songwriter who plays a whiter shade of pale as a Bach fugue. You'll be hearing him tonight. And I'm very honored to have consummate stage actor Ron Jones. He performed in my very first show here 12 years ago. All right, let's get going. Tonight's theatrical performance, How I Became an Earthman, about the most singular mystical experience, came down on my head while I was still a teenager and a university student. The raw cosmic power of this mystical moment propelled me to drop out of Syracuse University and fly to Europe, land in Paris, and hitchhike to India with $40 in my back pocket. My scholarship is kicked in. I'm a rising star in the photojournalism school and on the fast track to being a foreign correspondent for the New York Times. Nevertheless, my young spirit becomes increasingly restless to experience the wider, true world. I yearn for an authentic rite of passage into manhood as a 19-year-old teenager. Reading endless books and attending lectures seems a dangerous waste of my youth. Reading books is for old age, when the legs give out. With flagrant disregard for my $6,000 a year scholarship, I gradually drop out of all my classes because all these teachings had become totally irrelevant as my spirit drops out. My enthusiasm for the university lifestyle dwindles further when my closest friend, John Rudolph, is expelled from Syracuse University for making love to his girlfriend in student housing. She gets pregnant and they move to Boston. During Easter break, I fly to visit them in Boston. The hippie trip has begun. John shows off his strobe light in their funky upstairs apartment. He laughs heartily as he stones me on marijuana. We groove to the psychedelic vibrations of the mamas and the papas. That night, John and I wander out into the street to pick up a few things at a neighborhood corner store. On our casual stroll back to his apartment, from above me, in the night sky, I feel a sacred, awesome energy that revolutionizes the rest of my life. My whole awareness becomes magnetized by this invisible, mystical being from a higher consciousness beyond the veil of everyday perception. The invisible spirit commands me, go to. Then the spirit pauses for a moment. I become aware of a soft shuffling sound as if an otherworldly matrix is being brilliantly shifted into space. Followed by the final word, India. This no-frills mystical experience stuns me. A mere 3 words, go to India, shatters my life forever. So suddenly startling, the stillness of infinitely integrated life. Bewildered, I turn to my best friend and say, John, you won't believe what just happened to me. My staunch friend looks at me. He catches my cosmic excitement. He sees that I'm blown away. As if struck by celestial lightning, I stammer that some cosmic lord just ordered me to go to India. John wants part of the action. He rallies to my cause like a natural-born conspirator. He says, listen, my last $50 in the world is hidden away in my apartment. If you actually dare to follow that spirit in the sky, I will give you my last dollar on earth, man. Like, man, you must go to India. Like, man, if you stay in the United States, you would horizontal off, living a life just like the usual.
Go to India. I can't make up my mind. Can't tell what to do. Maybe I'll have some eggs or just some toast that's fine, but I end up with the usual. John's number 9. Waitress, she just nods, honey, you have that every time. Open at the counter, tip the caps towards me. I'm a Buddha man, I should be going to India kind of man. I need a brand new car. Something in red, maybe a little coupe or just a van instead, but I end up with the usual wagon seating 9. Dealer, he just nods. You'll be paying right on time, boy. Salesmen in the showroom flap their fins towards me. I'm a Buddha man. I should be going to India, kind of man. I think I'll go back to school. That's what I'm going to do. Become a tooth technician, maybe drive a truck, or become a punk beautician. But I end up with the usual. Standing in line at Syracuse University. Counselor, she just notes, Mr. Jones, you do that every time. Well, I wouldn't be standing here if we had more classes open. Why are you closing City College, for instance? I mean, what's going on around here? Teachers behind desks, they roll their C's towards me. I mean, I have a scholarship. I'm supposed to be going. I'm a New York Times kind of writer, man. Go to India.
I know nothing about India or Eastern religion. Hinduism and Buddhism have never crossed my mind. I have never possessed a passport, nor traveled anywhere except across the border from Michigan into Canada. And now I'm attempting to travel halfway around the world alone. And I have barely been out of the United States. I turned 20 last week. I've gone crazy. I might as well be hitchhiking to Timbuktu or walking across Africa to the Zanzibar sand.
Now that same strange boy with his hat in his hand walks across Africa to the Zanzibar sands, and I read his books of
Icelandic Airways is the cheapest carrier to Europe. A one-way ticket from New York City to Paris is $167.50.
Yes, all right.
This is April 10th, 1967. These transatlantic planes actually have propellers. I'm talking Indiana Jones. I go through Paris. I go up to a metro station. I've got 8,000 kilometers ahead of me. 5,000 miles, 40 bucks in my pocket. I look at the metro map. I find the station in the east of Paris that is closest to India. My ticket to the Far East costs $2. I get off the metro station, I start walking, it's getting colder, it's getting nighttime. No cars, no lifts, just keep walking east towards India. I pass the French bar. Inside are Frenchmen laughing and joking and having a boisterous night out. I'd love to go inside for a hot Irish coffee, but I'm in culture shock, and I don't have money for that anyway. So along the back road in this small French village, I start testing cars until I find one car that has the back door unlocked, and I crawl in there to survive that first night. My bones are freezing cold, become bitterly cold, and my home isn't home anymore.
Take this roof and make a floor. Take this wall and make a door. Leave this house a pile of stone. When home isn't home anymore.
When I unfold my map of Eurasia, Europe and Asia, I get an overview in one glance of my whole trip between Europe and Asia. But because the map covers such a vast territory, there are few actual roads on it. But the Euphrates River stands out. And Baghdad feels like an exotic stepping stone on my private vision quest to India. I head for Arabia. My hitchhiking route wanders through Germany and Austria and towards Italy and Yugoslavia. When I arrive in Istanbul, I find out that the hippie scene is the Gulhani Hotel in the neighborhood of Sultan Ahmed. At this notorious 25-cent a night crash pad featuring thin Turkish hashish wafers and a pudding shop next door, cinnamon pudding. I befriend a 16-year-old runaway Chicago freak named Sly. A few nights later, we are traveling partners headed for Baghdad. We catch good lifts and blaze an amazing trail to Adana on the Mediterranean coast. What an amazing day. Sly and I have traveled from Istanbul to near the Syrian border in one long dawn to dusk. Lucky day. The next morning inside Syria, Sly and I witnessed scenes out of the Bible. The gentle nomads look just like Jesus. Blue eyes, beautiful white beards. They are grazing goats and sheep near the roadside. These curious Bedouin nomads motion for us to abandon the road. During the heat of the day, these gracious desert folk invite us into their tents to rest. They serve us cool homemade yogurt in handmade clay vessels and drinking water, wanting nothing in return. After rest breaks with the nomads, the easiest thing to do is to keep moving because we do not speak Arabic or have any notion where we will sleep. Not that we have money to waste on lodging anyway. We are befriended by desert dwellers in the last small frontier town before the border with Iraq. We are bewildered when the village sheik motions for us to climb up on the platform in the main town square. For some mysterious reason, our desert-weathered, useful bodies are cheered and cheered. During this good-natured uproar, Sly and I make eye contact, shrug, and think, why not go for it? For all it's worth. Laughing, we strike exaggerated mythological poses. And the Syrians go berserk. For the climax, the village sheik crowns us with the traditional black and white checkered headdress with silver cording. We're caught up in a wild cinematic adventure, straight from the Lawrence of Arabia. Are we fulfilling an ancient Arab prophecy? We will never know, because we have hitchhiked across the entire nation of Syria in one long, memorable day, and hey, we woke up in Turkey. At sundown, we arrive at the border between Syria and Iraq. The Iraqi border post is a large military tent. At the sight of us, the Iraqi immigration officer is extremely apprehensive. We are the first Americans to travel this way during his lifetime. It's almost dark. We withdraw from the military tent and step into another weird world and landscape. We are emotionally disoriented by the intense unknown. This Arab desert world is extremely different from anything we have known. Instinctively, we prefer to keep walking into nowhere rather than engage with the borderland Iraqi villagers dwelling in medieval mud huts. But the road itself fades out with the sunlight. In a sandstorm, oil tanker trucks occasionally pass through. They are the only road action. We are rewarded for our perseverance and courage. In the near darkness, a curious tanker driver brakes and waves us on board up onto his big rig for the night, all the way to Baghdad. There is no distinct road. The driver simply follows the K2 pipeline, and when the sun comes up, after driving all night, Sly and I dust ourselves off on the outskirts of Baghdad. Sly and I are unaware how lucky we are to be able to freely travel across Syria and Iraq, because just 2 weeks later, the 1967 Six-Day War with Israel breaks out and the Middle East bursts into flames. After which Syria and Iraq are absolutely closed down to the Israelis and their American war allies for decades to come.
I mean, what happens when you're with Sai and you're traveling into the unknown, or what happens when the surreal takes over and the voices you hear are now guiding you. Why do I feel like Billie Holiday today? Feeling sad, feeling glad in a melancholy way. War in Afghanistan, I'm looking back, baby's dying. Mama's crying. Big business making money in coffins, red, white, and blue. Feeling saddened, don't know what to do. Freedom fighters, occupiers, take a stand, Hamas. Hamas, I understand. I see oppressors in the Taliban and our soldiers in the Holy Land.
Atomic ending.
Dateline, May 3rd, 1967, as Sly and I enter Baghdad, I give a shout out to Sly. Hey man, we're halfway to India. We register in a rundown hotel. We are culture shocked and frightened as we walk through the mysterious canopied Kasbah to the Euphrates River. Sly experienced a barely disguised panic attack. The 6 people hanging from a gallows in the town square. Trophies from across the border. Jewish spies. That's when Sly says, I'm Jewish, man. Shaky, he disappears into the Kasbah to find the nearest travel agent. Returns with a one-way ticket to Istanbul. He's going back to the Guhani Hotel. He's bailing on me. No worries. Traveling solo again, my mission is to escape the claustrophobic greater Baghdad and to embrace divine nature and the spacious countryside again, where honest hitchhiking is possible. I search for India by hitchhiking along the Euphrates River. As I head for my next destination, Bandar Abbas in the extreme south of Iran, a major port on the Persian Gulf. I figure I will wander from this southern Persian wilderness into Pakistan, just one country before India. This decision proves to be delusional and nearly fatal. The desert around me is extremely stark and barren and becomes frighteningly cold immediately after sundown. Not many passing cars, trucks. Actually, I am ecstatic to experience so much free space. The joy of having such a one-pointed focus. Go to India. And to attain this goal is the easiest way to be a young man. Simply to walk and to daydream through unknown cultures and landscapes freely delivered by total strangers. For the first time, I am totally independent from any social structure, with no reference to anybody, anything, or anywhere. I need this much space to grow into a man. I'm walking along the desert and I'm thinking and feeling America's soul, where I grew up and come from, is so swallowed up in anti-this, in anti-that, anti-Vietnam, anti-racism. Sure, these are just causes. But as a young man, my soul yearns to be for something. Pro-earth, pro-humanity, sex positive. I just want to be an out front, hopeful, healthy human being with an intact heart. Fuck all the religions and bullshit nations. And fuck them all at once. Fuck this shit. I spit in the dip. After walking all night, I witnessed the flaming desert dawn beyond Bandar Abbas in southern Persia. I am walking to India, but the road fades away into trackless sand dunes. Amazing how fine the sand grains are. As I pour the sand through my fingers, I am simply drifting through infinite sand dunes toward the rising sun. When a sheik appears as a mirage, he is dressed in immaculate white robes. His headdress has tassels of gold cording. He speaks perfect English with an Oxford accent and inquires diplomatically, "Young man, where do you think you are going?" When I answer, "I am walking to India," the sheik frowns, frightened for my survival. He compassionately, gently explains, "You cannot walk this way. There are no roads, only desert. You will perish without provisions and a camel." The desert sheik and his royal male entourage walk me to the nearest ramshackle police station. This police outpost is a custom checks for trucks carrying international cargo goods off those ships back in Bandar Abbas. The sheik rules this whole southwestern province of Persia. He orders the police to put me on the next long-haul truck north to Zahedan, where there's a road to Quetta, Pakistan. To this elegant Arab stranger, I owe my life. The sheik bows. "Salam alaikum." I pat my heart. Alaikum salam. This encounter with the sheik makes me deeply aware of the universality of human kindness. Traveling the wild world is accelerating my understanding of humanity. The mystic command to India is immersing my existence into the pool of authentic earth life. And I'm a sharp student. I'm perceptive. I am taking in the essential truth that the concept of foreign people is a disgusting illusion, foisted on humanity by nations and religions so that they can divide and conquer us, enslave us with those credit cards and the big screen TV, and force us to kill one another. Every year, more than 1 million human beings are slaughtered by nations against nations. Think about that before you go to bed tonight. 1 million human beings are slaughtered in cold blood every year on this planet right now. Whereas the truth is, we are all, everybody here at Harvard, all the ethnicities, all the different nationalities in this melting pot here, in these pools at Harvard, we are all birds of a feather. And it's just more fun. And we can survive by truly flocking together. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? Yeah. There are no foreign people. It feels so blissful to be a human being again. What's happening, man? I find myself in the avant-garde of the hippie movement sweeping eastward. When I was whammied by that mystical beckoning in Boston, I had no clue there was a hippie crusade making an overland pilgrimage from Istanbul to India. This is 1967. I find myself slightly ahead of the more than 300,000 Westerners who will eventually travel the overland route, the Hashish Trail from Istanbul to India, during the classic 1967 to 1973 golden age of hippie history. I'm hitchhiking alone through the desert from Quetta in Baluchistan, West Pakistan. In 1967, there were two Pakistans, East and West Pakistan, before the birth of Bangladesh. I'm hitchhiking to Pakistan's mega seaport, Karachi. This southern route travels through the hottest zone on planet Earth, the scorching Sindh Desert. After hitchhiking 200 miles south, I am stumbling, wilted beside a minor railroad track along a dirt road to medieval Sakur. While the temperature is sizzling, even at sunset, no motor traffic for a few hours. In the distance to the north, I become aware of a slow-moving freight train heading my way. Nothing else is happening, so I jog beside the train and impulsively jump onto a boxcar. Damn, the door is latched shut, so I must hang on to the side small ladder of the boxcar. The train seems to be traveling slower and slower until it finally stops in the middle of the desert. And I feel silly hanging on a boxcar that is not moving anymore. Even more surprising, the Pakistani engineer steps down from the engine and waves me to join him up front. He seems intrigued. To him, I look like a poor, young, runaway British lad, cross-referencing his 1930s experience with the former colonial British Raj. My situation makes no sense, but it's kind of funny in a way. Like a pirate, I swagger up to the engine, feeling absolutely heroic to have single-handedly stopped a train. A whole train. The engineer warmly greets me, speaks English, and invites me into the engine of the train. The elderly Pakistani engineer named Bilal laughs as he strokes the sweat from his long white mustache. Bilal slowly throttles the chain forward. Beside him is a bare-chested, sweating Sikh assistant shoveling coal into the engine. The heat, the fire, the thunderous sound, the energy, the sun fades, and the crystal night sky blazes with billions of stars. This engine is so loud we almost shout to be heard. Bilal is delighted by my company. He places a firm black substance on a red-hot piece of metal on the engine, after which he crumbles this thumb-sized slab into a black powder which he pushes into a clay pipe with his thumb. This is the first time I have seen hashish. When he witnesses my naive astonishment, he chuckles and smokes a mighty blast and hands me the pipe. I mimic his motions and powerfully inhale the hashish smoke. Wow, I've never been so stoned. The situation is so powerful, rocking and rolling with the motion of the train, and that sinewy, bare-chested Sikh, his dark skin glistening with perspiration in the starlight. The charismatic eternal engineer laughs as he prepares another pipe. What a magnificent drug virgin hashish high. Unforgettable. Welcome to Asia, where elderly Pakistanis drive trains stoned on hashish. And where the moon comes up over that crystal night desert, a whiter shade. What do you think, my buddies here, Mark and Ron? Give it up. Come on. And you know what? You guys are a generous audience. We got $234. We're coming back in September. 420. 9 tens. You do the math. In the morning, I find myself in Karachi thanks to Bilal, looking after me. Took me behind the Sukur train station, put me on a boxcar. I'm on the doorstep to India, but I run into a familiar problem. Politics. Because Pakistan has fought 2 wars with India over the status of Kashmir, there is no land border crossing between Pakistan and India in this entire southern region. The first functioning land border is more than 300 miles to the north. This is enough rough night to remember in sprawling Karachi. I am so hungry, but stubbornly, I will not spend my last go to India money. And I'm reading Lolita by Nabokov. But the only images that jump out are when the characters eat something. And Lolita sucks on a milkshake. After a sleepless, hungry, rough night, I tracked down the Indian consulate. The Indian consular agent collects passports from the travelers milling around outside the building, puts all the passports into a shoebox, which he passes back inside through a darkened window. My appearance is extremely raggedy and thin. I am weak and nearly without money. And yet India is so tantalizingly near. Bleary-eyed, I lounge under an expansive banyan tree, near the passport building. And while I almost pass into unconsciousness, native travelers get me talking because they're curious and concerned about me. When they hear about my disappointment that I cannot cross into India from here, they warmly invite me to travel with them. They are sailing on a British steamship to Bombay this afternoon from right here in Karachi Harbor.
Wow.
At long last, the Indian passport agent calls us to the window to retrieve our passports. And based on the amount of money I declared, I have an Indian visa inside, valid for 3 days. I faithfully follow my native Pakistani buddies to the British P&O steamship booking office. The agent dutifully informs me, with a British accent, that a one-way deck class ticket to Bombay requires 67 rupees. This is about $7. I anxiously empty my purse on the ticket counter, including the coins. I count my rupees, I stack up the coins. I have exactly 67 rupees left. One ticket to Bombay, please.
Congratulations, how you dedicate your life. It's beautiful to see your star on the rise. It's beautiful to see your star on the rise. You're going back to the side of your real home, to the place that was there for you all along. You're rising up to the world that you deserve through your dedication and nerves. Starting right now, it'll come together. Things are just gonna keep getting better. Starting right now, it'll come together. Things are just gonna keep getting better. Congratulations, how you dedicate your life. It's beautiful to see your star on the rise. Your star is on the rise.
The massive cargo and passenger ship to Bombay takes 1 day and 2 nights to cross the Arabian Sea. The moon is still almost full during my passage to India. I hang out amidst bulky coils of rope and titanic smokestacks on the wooden unsheltered deck, open to the sky. In my weather-beaten, billowy Pakistani pantaloons and my Asian headband, I blend in and almost pass for native. By this time, I am traveled enough around planet Earth to feel mellow among other common fellow humans wherever they happen to come from. The dawning of my triumph is May 11th, 1967. This day I will fulfill the mystic command from the sky in Boston to go to India. The date is exactly 1 month since I flew the coop from the United States. What a revolutionary month. After a cursory glance by Indian immigration aboard the boat, I'm stamped into India and saunter down the gangplank into the bustling streets of Bombay. What ecstasy to plant my physical foot in India. At last, the karmic reward is swift. a charismatic Danish freak invites me to smoke hashish with him on the seawall along the Bombay waterfront. And we spontaneously partner up. We never ever, we traveled together for months, but we never ever exchanged names. It's kind of like you didn't need to do that in 1967. So I just called him Dankst, which means Denmark person. He is carrying 10 pounds of hashish with him. He is also packing the latest Beatles album, Revolver. Because the Beatles have turned on planet Earth, man, including India. I mean, the Beatles were just up there in Maharishi's place in Rishikesh, and Mia Farrow and Donovan. So whenever we wander into a sprawling open-air Bombay cafe, Dank searches for the record player. Then he coaxes the cafe owner to put his Beatles LP on the turntable. Enchanted with the hip London sounds, we share hashish joints under the table and melt into the mellow nightlife of cosmopolitan Bombay. While tranced out on gourmet hashish, Dank spellbinds me with tales about a remote kingdom in the Himalayas named Nepal. He explains that a hippie scene is raging up there right now in Kathmandu, and that you are free to buy hashish in government-run shops. The challenge to travel from Bombay to the Himalayas turns me on. On the spectrum of my Go to India mission, Nepal seems like extra India, or India Plus. Next leads us to the train station because Bombay is a monster of millions. We will never get out of here by hitchhiking. Waiting for the train, Dansk and I smoke a pipe of hashish at the far end of the platform number 3. A nomadic music troupe begins dancing and singing. We are stoned and crazy and jump in with the gypsy dancers with carefree abandon. The passing natives find our performance irresistible. Stone white lads dancing with nomads on platform 3. The uninhibited freedom to dance amidst strangers gifts me with the ultimate travel insight. Hashish is fun. Through the night, the train passes through Indore into the heartland of India. At dawn, the train pulls into Agra station. We debate whether to visit the Taj Mahal. We agree that if we can score a rickshaw from the station to the Taj Mahal for 30 cents or less, we will go. And after smoking 7 bowls of primo Kashmiri hashish while lounging beside the reflecting pools, we are blown away by the Taj. From Agra, we begin to hitchhike along the famous Grand Trunk Road, the main east-west road across northern subcontinent of India. The GT road begins in Kashmir and ends in Calcutta. Most lifts we get are from professional truck drivers. Western travelers are a rare source of information, as in 1967 there is not one single television in India. Wow. The drivers stop at sprawling roadside restaurants. These massive cafes are mellow chill zones for truckers and their boy attendants and occasional passengers. These places are massive scenes with hundreds of fiber twine beds under ancient banyan trees for the wary truckers. In this Ganges River Valley, 2,500 years ago, these same banyan trees shaded Buddha and his followers. India truckers are powerful in this society. Mischievous, cocky roosters of the Grand Trunk Road, and they flaunt thick rolls of rupees. In these elaborate Grand Trunk rest areas, we have the option to sleep overnight, free, on the outdoor beds supplied by the cafes. These restaurants are well lit, serve great food, and never close. They are the ideal setting to negotiate long lifts with wary drivers who are resting and in a sympathetic mood. We are ready for luck.
I was acquainted with a painter, drops of color in his hair. He dug deep into his soul, but hardly anybody cared. He did beautiful work he could hardly give away. He never had his moment. What was in his way? Something you can't buy, something you can't fake. Get ready for luck calling your name. If it lifts you up, you can do no wrong. But tomorrow it'll drop you like a stone.
I've got lucky to have Mark come up for his third show. Yay!
Yep.
Finally, Danks and I are the featured entertainment at every truck stop. These long haul, I got my career began there. These long haul lorry drivers are more than happy to treat us to luscious meals like succulent lamb curry, with all the Indian savory side dishes and pickles and chilies and chapatis and chai. The Rajas of the GT Road presumptuously shout out food orders to the waiters for everybody in their entourage. And then with a Bollywood flourish, they theatrically pay the whole bill. To encourage this brotherly atmosphere at these outdoor truck stops, Danks breaks out his Primo Kashmiri hashish and his chillum pipe and becomes a working class hero by getting all the truckers outrageously stoned. They never thought they'd see the day. White men turning on the Indians to their own perennial intoxicant. We are a smash hit with the natives. Soon we are standing on the banks of the Ganges River at Benares, the sacred gathering place for the Kumbh Mela, the greatest gathering of human beings in history on the planet. In the dim pre-dawn light, we wander around the world-famous University of Benares. We come across an assembly hall with a dozen king-size circular beds covered in red velvet. Fully clothed Indian men are napping on them as if they are crashing from a sacred overnight ritual. More incomprehensible travel impressions. Like, why did they cheer us with the headdress back at Iraq? I explore on my own for a while, enter another chamber, and come face to face with a floor-to-ceiling ornate oriental mirror. Wow, that's me. I've not seen my reflection since Persia. I look so indigenous to planet Earth. I gaze at myself, from my feet to my head, pleased. I look so absolutely adventurous and weathered. I adore my dusty leather boots, marvelously seasoned by the dusts of Syria and Iraq, and my billowy Pakistani pantaloons. My face is blistered, my lips are cracked. I'm unshaven for weeks. My sweat-stained headband is a sacred cloth with orange Sanskrit characters. My unattended blonde hair is matting. I am grounded. The whole earth is my home. All earth creatures are my family. I am alert and poised for anything or anybody. For the first time in my life, I am a grown man. This is when I realized I have made it to India. Right. That my rite of passage is comprehensive and absolute. In the mirror, I see my own time-lapse metamorphosis from innocent Michigan lad to mystified Earthman, following his global spirit, unbounded, free from both Western and Eastern civilizations. I have marvelously mutated into an elemental earth person. Satchitananda. These holy beads of joy and pain, of birth and death, are the organic life juices of our earth kind's evolution, whence realized shall evaporate from the lower dimensions, until our race is reunited into a higher dimension within its own nature. As you now know, being me, on the essential shore of the universal vibration. I am you, you are me, you see yourself as we are wed in one world's division there. Satchitananda.